It's been 3 days, or maybe 4, I'm not sure. The stack of pizza boxes next to the couch is starting to form a leaning tower of grease and shame, and the whole apartment smells like stale air and regret. My thumb, moving on its own, unlocks my phone and opens his chat window for what must be the thousandth time. There it is again. My long, rambling paragraph of apologies, of begging, sitting above that tiny, mocking, red exclamation point. Message failed to send. Of course it failed. It failed yesterday and the day before that. Just like the calls that don't go through, just like when I search his name on Instagram and get that user not found screen. He didn't just block me, he has surgically removed me from his digital existence, and in doing so has evaporated from mine. The silence in here is deafening. There's no sound of his keyboard clicking away in the study, no low hum of the video game console, no gentle teasing as I burn the toast again. There's just the buzz of the refrigerator and the frantic, looping monologue in my own head. It's a highlight reel of the last week, playing on repeat, each viewing making less sense than the last. I see my own face, twisted and ugly with anger. I hear the words that came out of my mouth, and then I see his face. The look on his face right before he stopped everything. I know I messed up, God, do I know that, but this complete and utter vanishing act, it feels like a punishment so absolute, so final that my mind can't quite grasp it. It's like I'm standing in the rubble of a building, holding the detonator with no memory of ever pushing the button. How did it get like this? How did I break the one good thing I had so completely? He was my anchor, that's the cliche, isn't it? But it was true. My last relationship had left me with a nasty set of emotional tripwires, and Zachary was the first person who learned where they were without ever setting one off. He was patient. When I'd spiral into insecurity, convinced he was about to leave me, he wouldn't get angry or defensive. He'd just sit with me, his presence a quiet, solid thing, and wait for the storm in my head to pass. He never made me feel broken, just a little bruised, and he was okay with that. That's why he trusted me, that's what kills me the most. I remember the night he told me. We were curled up on the sofa, the rain drumming against the window pane, the world outside feeling a million miles away. He was quieter than usual, and I could tell something was weighing on him. He finally turned to me, his eyes searching mine for a moment, and then he just started talking. He spoke so softly I had to lean in to hear him. He told me about his childhood, about growing up with a single mom who worked 2 jobs, about wearing second-hand clothes and always being the skinniest kid in his class. And then he told me about the locker. He was 12. A group of older boys, for no reason other than pure meanness, had shoved him into one of the tall, narrow metal lockers in the hallway after school. They slammed the door and jammed the lock. He said the worst part wasn't the dark or the smell of rust and stale gym socks. It was the absolute crushing helplessness. The feeling of screaming until his throat was raw, knowing no one could hear him. He was in there for nearly 4 hours until a janitor making his final rounds heard his weak banging. He told me he's never been able to shake it. A deep, primal fear of being trapped, of being small and powerless and completely at the mercy of someone else's cruelty. He'd never told anyone the full story before. Not his mom, not his best friends, just me. I held him and I felt this overwhelming wave of love and protectiveness. I swore to myself I would be the safest place on earth for him. That secret was a sacred thing he had placed in my hands. It was the key to his most fragile room, and like an idiot, I put it in my pocket for later. The fight started, as most of our catastrophic fights did, over something so stupid it's embarrassing to even say it out loud. What to do on Saturday. I'd had a brutal week at work and wanted to go out with friends, blow off some steam, feel like a normal person. He'd had a brutal week too, and all he wanted was to order takeout and collapse on the couch. A classic low-stakes disagreement, but for me it wasn't low stakes. I felt that familiar hot prickle of panic behind my eyes. The argument wasn't about the weekend anymore. It was about him not getting it, not seeing how much I needed a distraction, which my twisted brain translated into him not caring. The old script from my past relationship started playing in my head. He's pulling away, he's bored of you, you're too much. He was being calm, which only made me angrier. Kaitlyn, can we just take a breath? He said, his voice even. We're just tired. We're not getting anywhere like this. His reasonableness felt like a personal attack. It felt like he was the adult and I was the hysterical child. I felt small, powerless. And in that split second, a dark, ugly impulse took over. I needed to make him feel as small as I did. I needed to win, and I had the perfect weapon. You know what? You're doing it right now, I sneered, the words tasting like acid in my mouth. You're shutting down, getting quiet, just like you always do. You're just like that pathetic little boy you told me about, trapped in the dark and waiting for someone to save him. Is that what you want me to do, Zachary? Is this you being helpless again? The words hung in the air between us, thick and poisonous. He didn't flinch, he didn't yell, he didn't do anything. He just deflated. It was like I had reached inside his chest and squeezed his heart until it stopped beating. The light in his eyes, the one that always looked at me with so much warmth, just went out. He looked at me, but he wasn't seeing me, his girlfriend. He was seeing a stranger, a cruel one. The silence that followed wasn't an angry silence, it was the silence of a tomb. The fight was over. The need to win evaporated instantly, replaced by a cold, sickening dread that flooded my entire body. I had taken the most vulnerable part of him, the secret he had gifted me in total trust, and I had turned it into a shiv. And I had aimed it perfectly. He didn't leave. Not at first, which was somehow worse, he just retreated. Our apartment, once a shared sanctuary, became a carefully negotiated demilitarized zone. He started sleeping in the guest room. He'd leave for work before I woke up, the faint scent of his coffee the only proof he'd been there. He'd come home late after I was already in bed, pretending to be asleep, my body rigid as I listened for the soft click of the guest room door. We existed in the same space like two ghosts who were studiously ignoring each other. The silence was a physical presence, a thick, suffocating blanket that was smothering me. Every time I heard his keys in the door, my heart would leap with a desperate, childish hope, and every time he walked past me to the other end of the apartment without a word, it would plummet into a cold, dark pit. My anxiety went into overdrive. I couldn't eat, I couldn't focus at work. The dread of what I had done was a constant, churning knot in my stomach. I rehearsed apologies in my head 100 times a day. Zachary, I am so sorry. It was a monstrous thing to say. I was scared and I lashed out and I would give anything to take it back. But the words always got stuck in my throat. The fear of saying them and having him look at me with that same empty expression, of him saying, I know, but it doesn't matter, was paralyzing. So my broken, cowardly brain went for the one tool it knew best: manipulation. If I couldn't get his attention by being the person he loved, maybe I could get it by being a person he had to take care of. It started subtly, pathetically. I'd leave my untouched plate of food on the counter where he'd be sure to see it. I started wearing his old, oversized university sweatshirt around the apartment, a pathetic visual cue of how much I missed his embrace. When that yielded nothing but more silence, I escalated. One evening, he came into the living room to find me curled up on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, just staring blankly at the wall. I had spent 10 minutes making sure the lighting was dim and moody, that there were visible tear tracks on my cheeks. It was a stage, and I was the star of my own tragedy. Kaitlyn, he asked. His voice was flat, devoid of the immediate, warm concern I was so desperate to hear. I think my depression is coming back, I whispered, not daring to look at him. I just feel nothing, I can't get out of bed, everything feels so heavy. It was a disgusting lie. I wasn't numb, I was vibrating with a symphony of guilt, fear, and shame. But I was banking on the old Zachary, the one who would drop everything to pull me out of a spiral. I was trying to force his hand, to make him my caretaker again so I wouldn't have to be the villain anymore. He stood there for a long moment and I could feel his eyes on me. He wasn't looking at a woman in pain, he was looking at a performance. I think he saw every single string I was trying to pull. He didn't rush to my side. He didn't offer to make me tea or hold me. His shoulders slumped with a weariness that seemed to age him 10 years right in front of me. You should probably call your therapist, he said, his voice quiet but firm. And then he turned and walked into the guest room, closing the door softly behind him. The click of the latch wasn't angry, it was final. It was the sound of a boundary being drawn in steel. My cheap trick hadn't just failed, it had confirmed to him that I was still the person who would do anything, say anything, to get what I wanted. I had pushed him even further away. The performance didn't just fail, it backfired spectacularly. My clumsy attempt to play the victim had only cemented my role as the villain. The silence in the apartment deepened, becoming heavier, colder. He wasn't just avoiding me now, he was erasing himself from my daily life in real time. He started showering at the gym. I'd find receipts for takeout places near his office, meaning he wasn't even eating at home anymore. He was treating our apartment like a storage unit for his body while he slept. I was losing my mind. The constant tension was fraying my last nerve. I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I had to force a confrontation, an explosion, anything to break this unbearable quiet. One afternoon, I left work early, my heart pounding with a mixture of terror and a strange, self-destructive resolve. I was going to corner him. I was going to make him talk to me. I rehearsed a new speech in the car, one that was less apology and more accusation. How long are you going to punish me? You have to talk to me, we live together. I walked in, calling his name, my voice artificially bright. Zach, I'm home early, thought we could finally talk. Silence, the apartment felt different, too still, too neat. I walked into the living room. The stack of his favorite books was gone from the coffee table. A nervous tremor started in my hands. I went to the bathroom. His toothbrush, his razor, his bottle of shampoo all gone. A cold wave of nausea washed over me. No, 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 I ran to our bedroom. My side of the closet was a mess as usual. His side was a neat, orderly void. Hangers, all empty, were spaced perfectly apart. The top of his dresser was bare, wiped clean of his watch, his wallet, the little clay dish I'd made him for his keys. Every single trace of him, every small, intimate piece of his life that had been woven into mine, had been meticulously, silently removed. There was no note on the pillow. No dramatic, angry text message. No final, tearful goodbye. He had just evaporated. He had packed up his entire existence from my life while I was at work, planning another selfish confrontation. He had chosen the path of least resistance, the method of a man so done with conflict, so utterly beaten down, that he simply vanished rather than face me one more time. The ghost I had been living with for a week had finally floated away for good. Panic, pure animal panic. My first instinct was denial. This was a joke. A cruel, elaborate trick to punish me. I grabbed my phone, my fingers fumbling as I dialed his number. It rang twice, then went to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail, I sent a text. Zachary, this isn't funny. Where are you? Call me right now. I watched the message turn from delivered to that stark, brutal read receipt followed by absolutely nothing. He was seeing my desperation and choosing to ignore it. Then came the frantic barrage of messages, each one more unhinged than the last. Apologies morphed into accusations, begging into anger. I'm so sorry, please come home. How could you just leave like this? You're a coward, I love you, I can't do this without you. The red exclamation points started to appear as he blocked my number. My lifeline was cut. I turned to our friends, my humiliation burning with every call. The conversations were all excruciatingly similar. Hey, have you heard from Zach? I'd ask, trying to sound casual. A long, awkward pause would follow. Yeah, he called me earlier, his best friend Ryan finally admitted, his voice tight with discomfort. Listen, Kaitlyn, he just said he needed some space. He doesn't want to talk right now. It was the same with everyone. They knew. They had all been notified of my excommunication. Their politeness was a wall I couldn't break through. I wasn't just losing him, I was being quietly, politely ejected from the life we had built together. The awkward distancing was worse than open hostility. It made me feel like a contaminated object they were all afraid to touch. Days blurred into a miserable haze. I finally forced myself to clean, to try and impose some order on the chaos of my life. As I was stripping the sheets off the guest bed, his tablet, which he must have forgotten in his haste, slid out from under a pillow. My heart seized. I powered it on, a sick feeling of trespass warring with a desperate need for any connection to him. It opened to his notes app, and there it was, a note titled Gift for Kay. My breath hitched. It was a detailed plan. He had been secretly taking a woodworking class at the local community college. The note was full of links to different types of cherry wood, sketches of joinery, and measurements for our living room wall. The last entry, dated the day before our fight, read, found the perfect grain, should have it finished in time for her birthday. Can't wait to see her face. He was building me a bookshelf. He was taking a class, learning a skill, planning a surprise born out of pure love, all while I was stewing in my own insecurity, getting ready to detonate our lives. The unfinished project, a tangible symbol of a future he was actively building for us, was the final, devastating piece of evidence. It wasn't just a relationship I had destroyed. It was a beautiful, handcrafted future he was trying to give me, and I had smashed it to pieces with my own ugly words. And so I'm back here, in the quiet, in the mess. It's been weeks now, but time has stopped making sense. My world has shrunk to the four walls of this apartment and the glowing screen of my phone. The panic has subsided, replaced by a dull, constant ache and a carousel of self-lacerating thoughts that never stops turning. During the day, I'm a litigator in the court of my own mind, and I am both the prosecution and the defense. One moment, I'm pacing the floor, muttering about how unfair this is. He was a communication avoidant coward. He could have fought for us, he could have told me how much I hurt him instead of just disappearing. The anger feels good, righteous even, for a few precious minutes, but then the defense collapses. The memory of his face after I said those words flashes in my mind, and the self-hatred comes rushing back in. What did you expect, you idiot? You took his soul and stomped on it. Disappearing was the kindest thing he could have done for himself. At night, it's worse. The loneliness is a physical weight pressing down on my chest. That's when I become the social media stalker. It's a sick, compulsive ritual. I can't see his pages, but I can see his friends. I scroll through Ryan's new photos, my eyes scanning the background of every group shot, looking for a glimpse of his arm, the back of his head, anything. Last night, I found one. A picture from a barbecue. He was in the background, laughing at something someone said. He looked okay. He looked happy. A single clear image of him moving on, and it felt like a knife twisting in my gut. I still write the messages. I have a note in my phone, a long, scrolling document of everything I wish I could say to him. It's filled with apologies, memories, desperate pleas. Sometimes I copy the entire text, paste it into our old chat window, and hold my thumb over the send button. I imagine him getting it. I imagine him reading it and feeling something, anything, but I never send it. I just stare at the screen until my eyes burn, and then, like a coward, I delete it all, one character at a time. It's an endless, pathetic cycle of reaching out and pulling back, a perfect little self-contained hell of my own making. And the worst part is, I know I deserve to be here.